Welcome to episode 2. I'm Sarah Stallbush.
I'm Stephanie Cornelio.
And I'm Pandy Lenartz.
And our theme for this episode is differentiation. And Pandy, you are our special guest because you just did, well, that's been a passion of yours for some time.
It has been. It's something that I try to do in my classes often. I've not found a whole lot of success. It feels very clunky and chaotic. And this last week I did something that worked awesome, and I'm excited to share it with you.
We are so excited to talk about it.
So what were some of your goals when you started this new process?
My goals were to have several different activities for several different groups of kids, but in the end, know that they were all going to get to the same place. And so to differentiate with the activities that I had planned, I had to have some things that were a little bit lower and some things that were a little bit higher. As long as they all met at the common finish line, I didn't really matter what else they were doing, as long as they were practicing the same skills.
And you mentioned to me that this concept in the past, when you were kind of one directional with it, you teach, they take notes, that it took longer.
It does take longer. This particular concept has taken me, I would estimate 4 to 5 days for them to feel confident with solving these problems. Population genetics is a challenging topic all by itself. So I was really pleased with the way this worked because honestly, I think I've spent a day and a half on something that would have taken me 4 days or 5 days in the past.
Oh, wow.
What were you kind of expecting? How are you expecting this to go?
When I started, I really didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a workshop and I learned about playlists, and I thought that sounds like a really cool way to project an agenda for the students of things to do. And I learned that it's really not just an agenda. It's not a to-do list. It's a to-do list coupled with pedagogy, because you really have to plan the activities and make sure that you're scaffolding the learning, that there's a variety of activities for them to be fully engaged in the entire time. And it can't be just a to-do list, or they just get bored and they just feel like it's the same old stuff that they've always been doing and you just gave them a list of stuff to do. So there was a variety of things with a short amount of time to do each one of those.
So this was your first time creating a playlist ever?
It was my first time creating a playlist, and it was my first time differentiating instruction in the classroom. And when I say classroom, I don't mean in my physical classroom, I mean the Google Classroom.
Do you think it was the setup took a long time?
Yes, the setup did take a long time, mostly because I didn't know what I was doing and I was trying to do it by myself, just based on what I thought I had learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure how it was going to look, and so I was redoing a lot of things. I think it would be super easy for me to set it up again, and I could guide someone to make it not so cumbersome in the beginning, but definitely it takes a lot of time to plan, but the outcome was way better than what I expected.
And so why don't you show us then? Let's give us a little peek into Google and how that looked when you built it.
All right. So the way I started planning for this activity is I made this playlist, which I learned about in a workshop I recently attended. And it's 6 activities that are designed to teach population genetics problems or solving population genetics problems. And I chose them specifically to, number 1, create variety for the student. So there's a variety of different activities: paper, watching a video, doing a tutorial, a virtual lab, and some book stuff. And also to scaffold learning. So you can see that on here that the first activity is maybe the easiest. It's the most basic and very methodical type tutorial for students that are really struggling with what we did in class, and then all the way up to the end, which is a very challenging set of population genetics problems that students will do independently in a virtual textbook environment. So after I made the playlist, then I went to my classroom for these students, and this is where the differentiation took place. This is also something I learned in this workshop, which was awesome because you can see here on my stream, I have the playlist 3 times. So this is the 1 assignment, the same thing, 2 assignments, and the same thing, 3 assignments, but they're really not the same because see, this is assigned to only 6 students, and their directions here are very different than these 6 students. The students up here, these are what I would consider my low students. I introduced this topic last Friday. We only spent about 20 minutes on it, and based on how their performance was in the class, I determined who needed what kind of help in this lesson. And so these students have to start with one activity, and they're very prescribed in how they move through the playlist. Another group of students are what I would call my medium students, and I made them start with one activity, and then after that they could choose what they wanted to do. And then the third list, as long as they attacked the rally coach activity at some point during the class time, because there's not another time when I can make sure that they're actually talking with a partner, then they can do all of the activities in any way they want. And the other thing is it's differentiated because some kids are doing the first activity, some kids are doing the last activity. Not everyone's doing the same activities. There are 6 total. 1 is optional, and the other, out of the other 5, they get to choose the 4 that they want to do, unless they're in the group where they're, again, very prescribed. So what the kids see in their classroom is just one of these assignments. So these 6 students will only see these instructions. And that's it. So we started the class. I let them know where to go for their instructions, and that's it.
And so Stephanie and I were lucky enough to get to observe this lesson. So we saw some amazing things from our perspective, but from yours, how do you think it went?
I think it went really well. I was expecting to be putting out fires, running around from group to group, because they were all at different places and doing different things, and that's not what happened at all. I was relaxed. I was just I was just fixing misconceptions when they needed help, and I could tell exactly who needed help, what they were working on, and it was really calm, and the kids were engaged the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 things that I wanted to ask. What are some things that you noticed, and then what kind of feedback did you get from the kids?
Things I noticed, so there are a couple of things I want to change. We can talk about that later. The feedback I got immediately in the class was that they were engaged and busy and seemed to be actually having fun with their partners, asking for help when they needed it. The feedback that I received actually yesterday and today, the end of that playlist, there was a link to a Google form, and they all sent feedback via that survey. The questions were things like, did they get enough assistance or face-to-face time with me? How useful was this activity? How were the instructions? It was more about planning and really helped me decide if I'm going to do the activity again or not. And there was one question on, would you like to do this again? And 100% of the kids said yes, they want to do it again.
Nice.
So it was really positive feedback.
Great.
Now you told me you had chosen those partners just for that day.
I did. I chose, those are not, they were not sitting with their regular partners.
Mm-hmm.
I introduced this activity on Friday, this concept on Friday. We spent about 20-25 minutes on Friday, and based on their level of frustration, the support they needed or the challenge that they were struggling with on Friday helped me determine who they needed to work with on Monday. And so I paired them with someone that was kind of at the same ability level. Mm-hmm. So when they came into class on Monday, I told them who to sit with.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about those partnerships?
I think all the partnerships worked perfectly. I think it was interesting because I did have one pair of girls who were struggling, and they both came in the next day and asked for help. And one of the comments from one of them was, I don't know how you expect us to do a rally coach when both of us don't know what we're doing. And so that was good feedback for me, because it was the one piece in the form that wasn't completely positive, but it led me to think that, I probably needed to have another basic, methodical, prescribed, easier tutorial for someone else. Mm-hmm. So maybe they should have done a little bit more before I turned them loose, instructing each other.
Okay.
So this was your first time doing a playlist in the class. It went great, but you said there were some things that you would maybe do differently next time. What would those be?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't tell you, I know you guys saw it, but was I actually had rotations for the different activities. So the amount of activities they needed to do could not be completed in the class hour. They had to do some of that outside of class. So during the class period, I set up rotations of 13 minutes apiece, and I really wanted to build in that extra piece at the end of the hour, because I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I wasn't sure if I needed to collect everyone together and make sure they knew what they were supposed to do the next day. And just for organizational purposes. I wasn't really sure how much time I was going to need. I think I would extend those time frames a little bit because it worked very smoothly and they probably needed a little bit more time. That being said, you pointed out something to me, Stephanie, during the class period, that it was really nice to see the kids get into all the different activities, at least 3 during the class, to know that they knew how to get to them. They knew how much help they were going to need with each one and what they could do on their own or what they were going to need help with. It was nice to see them have that experience with those activities before they left the class.
So you were really collecting a lot of data. They were experiencing several different activities, and you got to see how they were doing with all those. Based on that, really formative assessment, how are you feeling about when they take a summative assessment? How are they going to do?
It was a type of formative assessment. I was watching them the whole time, just like a lab. I felt really confident that they had acquired the skills to solve the problems they needed to do in that class period or over the next 2 days as they finished the rest of the playlist that we would have taken 4 or maybe 5 class periods to do. Where I stand in class right now, I'm planning on giving them a quiz on Monday. Really, it's only been a day and a half of instruction where I would have taken 4 or 5 before I would give it the same quiz. I feel like they're going to do just as well or better with less time spent in the classroom on that topic.
Because they made the meaning out of it.
They did.
Wow.
That's powerful.
So
So thank you so much, Pandy, for letting us in your classroom and letting us videotape you and interview you for our podcast. We really appreciate it. We really think a lot of teachers are going to benefit from seeing this. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And so our 2 tasks we have for you guys are to, 1, think about how this would look in your classroom for your content. So could you use this to help kids at different levels all at the same time using all of the resources that we showed you today. We're going to link Pandy's list, her playlist, and I also have one from Chantel that she's going to let us put on the site. So you get to see a science example, a math example, and then just reach out to us and let us know what are you thinking, and maybe we can help you in that process and get something started.
Yep. Anything you need in the planning or the execution, just reach out. That's job 1. Job 2 is, what are you doing already for differentiation that could benefit other teachers? We want this to be a PLC site. And so any ideas, anything that's working for you when you meet your kids where they're at, please contribute it on the comments page. We got a couple of really nice notes before, but that was on the YouTube link and not everybody sees those. So we want to make sure that it's in a place where everybody can see it and share and try and, get better. So that's episode 2, and we'll see you real soon for episode 3.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Sunnyslow.